Yep, perfect. Yep, I'm so thrilled to see everyone here on site and also those of joining us online from around the world. So great to have you all of you with us here today. A warm welcome to the Let's Be Better in Welcoming All in Sports seminar. My name is Miguel Peltomaa, and it is my pleasure to serve as the host of this important seminar. And by the way, because I'm hosting in sign language, I need a voice. And the voice today belongs to talented, top-notch Jussi Vainio. Yeah, it's going to be a great day, for sure. We're all gathered here to discuss diversity and inclusivity in sports. That's a surely topic that concerns us all. Our event is part of the Welcome Project by Finland's Svenska Idrott and the Humak University of Applied Science. The project aims to promote the well-being and integration of immigrant background children and youth through sports. This day is organized in collaboration with Hanaholmen, the Swedish-Finnish Cultural Center. During today, we'll hear from international experts and also enjoy engaging panel discussions. The seminar's patron is the Minister of Sport, Youth and Physical Activity, Sandra Bergqvist. If anything occurs to your mind during the day, you want to ask something, share your insights, please do it via Mentimeter. The further instructions should be on the slide behind me. There we go. There we go. Means that you can take out your phone or computer and navigate to menti.com, and then you will enter the code seen on the screen. 516533463, a long code, but yeah, just enter that in, and you will enter the page. And you can freely write down your thoughts on the Mentimeter. I really warmly recommend to do that. I've been rambling a long time already, but before we move on with the day's program, I have something really important to say. I would like to remind you of the principle of a safer space. Our seminar aims to create an environment, both on site and online, where everyone can be themselves and participate safely. Let's all do our share of this to make it happen. Yeah, let's keep in mind that it's on everyone to keep the principles in mind and respect them. There is also a safeguarding officer available. If you need in contact, could you please rise up and raise your hand? There we go. All right, let's go. Let's start with the program. Next, we'll hand over to Mikael Hiltunen, the project manager at Hanasaari, who will offer his own welcome to the participants. And after that, we will hear a greeting from the Minister of Sport, Youth and Physical Activity, Sandra Bergqvist, via video. Please, go ahead, Mikael.
Thank you, Miguel, dear friends of sport. A warm welcome to Hanaholmen. My name's Mikael Hiltunen, and I work as a project manager here at Hanaholmen in our program department. Our mission is to strengthen cooperation between Sweden and Finland in all areas of life. Next year, Hanaholmen turns 50, and I'd like to invite you all to take part in our anniversary program. I'm especially thrilled to be addressing you today because sports and physical activity are a real passion of mine. I play football for Achilles in Porvoo. I go swimming once a week, and I also do CrossFit on my own. Sport gives me energy, a sense of purpose, and a place where I belong. It's so important for sport clubs to have activities for adults who love sports but aren't aiming for elite level training. In my football team, we've got players of all ages, from 30 to 50, and we're constantly welcoming new ones. Thanks to a really inclusive culture, we've had a lot of new players join us from immigrant backgrounds, and that's something I'm really proud of. Through our activities, newcomers to Finland get to be part of a community, practice their Finnish, and feel at home. I'm also an assistant coach in my daughter's football team. Beyond teaching the kids about football, we're also role models. It's up to us to create a supportive environment where the kids feel safe and brave. They learn how to work in a team and respect people that are different. Sports clubs are doing great work when it comes to inclusion and diversity, but there's still a lot to improve. There should be a zero tolerance for racism on or off the pitch. One of today's speakers, football referee Abdirahman Sugul, has openly talked about the racism he has faced, and it's absolutely unacceptable. Abdirahman and others like him who take a stand against racism are heroes, and it's our duty to support them. Let's be better in this regard too. I hope you enjoy your stay here at Hanaholmen, and I wish you an interesting conference. Thank you.
Distinguished guests, I'm glad and honored for having this opportunity to greet you today. This seminar is about welcoming all sports, which echoes the basic principles of the Finnish sport policy: equality, non-discrimination, and social inclusion. We share the idea that sport and physical activity are tools for integration in the society. We know that sport clubs instill a sense of community and belonging. We also agree that a healthy lifestyle includes a certain amount of physical activity, and that physical activity improves our well-being and ability to work and help us to keep learning new things. We are also of the opinion that the easiest way for people to adopt a physical active lifestyle is in their childhood years. That we agree on these facts is one step forward. The Ministry of Education and Culture has promoted the integration of immigrants through sports by grants to the projects of municipalities, reception centers, and organizations. The main target groups in these grants have been children and young people. However, we think that the potential of physical activity in the integration of immigrants has still not been fully used, not only as an instrument of integration, but also as a tool for health and well-being. Furthermore, we have also worked to ensure that leisure activities are safe for everyone, also by preventing and tackling inappropriate treatment, such as discrimination and racism. So, let's do more. The Welcome Project and today's seminar are another step forward. I wish this seminar will bring you new ideas and the best practices developed in the project will inspire your future work. Enjoy the seminar.
Next, we will hear really interesting talk about the Welcome, Wellbeing and Integration Through Sports project. The project aims to promote the well-being and integration of immigrant background children and youth through sports. The project has been a significant step toward enhancing diversity, and it has provided valuable support to sports clubs. The Welcome project has involved several partner organizations, and the project has been funded by the European Union EECEA pilot projects and preparatory actions, and also the Ministry of Education and Culture. Now we will get to hear more of this incredibly interesting project from the project manager, Tarja Krum. The stage is yours, Tarja.
Thank you so much, Miguel, and I'm really happy and pleased to see so many of you here on site today, of course also everyone online. We have a lot of people both on international level and also national level taking part today in this important final conference of Welcome. So during this 2 years journey, we have learned a lot. We have also got a lot of reflections, done a lot of actions. And I just want to share with you some couple of things that we have done during these years. So, the Welcome project, the main goals, what have we aimed to reach? First of all, to really support and help refugee children and children and youth with migration background to find sports on local level, to integrate better to the society. Secondly, of course, to help and support sports club in being more better in including people with different background. And last but not least, share this great what we have learned during the way and also everything that we have seen that works, also share it with all of you also on international level. So a couple of things what we have done. As I mentioned, reaching children and youth with migration and refugee background. What we have done is to have on local level this kind of local sports events. We have especially done it in Turku with our pilot club Åbo IFK, which you will hear a lot about more later. And together with the reception center, we have really simple and easy this kind of events where you get to know what the clubs offer, what kind of activities. So the coaches have been there, introduced what you can do when it comes to football, track and field, and so on. And of course, some juice and cookies and coffee. That's like, gives a lot. But just to share some thoughts that has been, for me, really important. First of all, feelings. How much feelings sports can give. So when we started the project, it was quite after the war in Ukraine started. So when we were working with the reception centers, a lot of the refugees came from Ukraine. So the emotion, what it give. So one of the parents came to us afterwards and said, "This is the first time in a long time my child is happy and smiling." A second thing, which I think is really important for us, especially in the north, in the Nordic countries, to remember, there was one time we had this activity and it was a bit rainy weather. And there was not so many attending and we were wondering, okay, where is everyone? Okay. And then one by one came, and then one person came and said, "We really thought you wouldn't have any kind of activities now. It's pouring rain. You Finnish people are really crazy." And that's not actually the first time I hear it. But anyway, partners. As we all know who have had projects, sometimes partners can change, and it can be a lack of resources in the organizations. There have been some changes when it comes to the economical possibilities and so on. It also happened to us. But what we did actually, we tried to find what are the stakeholders we can find outside of sports. Usually we maybe just stay inside of the sports circumstances, but really look what kind of organization, stakeholder is there that we can contact instead. So together with Åbo FK, or pilot club, we checked which contacts do we already have and strengthen the contacts with them, but also to look what kind of other associations and organizations are there. And we really managed to create this local network, which also gave new volunteers from families, parents, but also new children and youth to Åbo IFK. So what I really want to encourage all of you, look outside of sports. You never know what kind of great partners you will receive there. Education. As I mentioned earlier, we have done a lot of education, both online and on-site with clubs. What we did was that we had this kind of, with sports club on sites, we planned these action plans, and it was based on discussions. What the participants felt that this is really important, and this is what we want to focus on. And many said that this is the first time they really have time to engage and have these discussions. They didn't maybe usually have that space for that. So there was a lot of really good things that came up. And one thing that came up was this concept called Pukkari pop-up, which is also locker room pop-up in English. We have now done a concept. It's also a handbook, and it's in 3 different languages, which consist of really different but easy for activities for coaches, for leaders to have with their children and youth. And the main thing is there to be better in encountering. Because as we know, that's a skill we are losing in society these days. So I really want to remind and to get back of this basic skill. A really impactful action. We also every time say in our project, thank God we have Ida. So one thing we did, in the beginning, we asked when we were doing the application, we discussed with the pilot club Åbo FK, what do you need to succeed in implementing these actions we are planning for you? And what Lena said, you will meet her also later, that we really need extra hands. And so what we did was that one of the workers of Welcome Project, she is situated and located in Åbo FK's office. She's there in their daily life and supporting, and together they are doing these actions to implement. And it has been a really huge success. They have done so much more than we had planned to do. So this is also something to keep in mind, that really to have this person from the project there in the daily life of the sports club. Last but not least, I wish you really to learn more about the projects. You can ask us, our really great project team. We have these t-shirts here on. So you can discuss and ask us more about the project. We also have the website. I encourage you to take a look at it. And a second thing, we have this sports square, which is up there in this conference hall, where we have asked different organizations, not just ours, to bring their great practices, what comes to materials, methods, to share them, so that we all can find these good practices on the one place. So, everyone, I hope you will enjoy this day. I hope you will take some takeaway with you. And last but not least, let's be better in welcoming all.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tarja. Okay, there's a small, tiny bit of change in program. Cole Giffen was supposed to be from the distance here, but we're going to shift him a bit later. Maybe it's because it's probably night in Canada now. Maybe it's about 3 o'clock or something there. Well, let's just all hope that he's sleeping sound and solid there now, getting a good rest. But it doesn't matter, let's switch the program and move on. So, next up, we will have a panel discussion on the importance of diversity in sports. We have 3 experts joining us, and each with personal experience of what it takes to achieve inclusivity and equality in sports. First panelist is Dakota Robin, who is a human rights educator and a DEI specialist, who has trained professionals across various fields in promoting non-discrimination and diversity. Dakota will share insights on how to create an equitable environment in sports where everyone feels a sense of belonging. Second panelist is Azoka Namaka, who is the Chief Operating Officer of RF SISU Stockholm and a long-standing advocate for diversity in the sports sector. Azoka works actively to ensure that sports communities in Stockholm and more broadly in Sweden uphold principles of equality. And the third panelist is paraswimmer Henrik Krogius, who has first-hand experience as an athlete of inclusivity work in sports. Henrik represents athletes for whom equal and accessible participation in sports is critically important. And the discussion following is facilitated by Kim Lindblad. He's the manager of international affairs and languages at HUMAC. And Kim also has a wide experience at different levels in sports. So, welcome panelists, welcome Kim, and thank you for joining us to discuss and share your perspectives on the importance of diversity in sports.
Hey, I'm going to start to talk to you guys about my story in sports, and especially though in Swedish sports and in basketball. Like Miguel said, I'm from Sweden. I started my I'm from Sweden, and sports has been a huge part of my life for the past 30 years. I started playing basketball when I was 11 years old, and since then I've been a participant, a coach, a board member, and also sport is my place of work right now. Like Miguel said, I am Chief of Operation in RF SISU Stockholm, which is one of the 19 districts of the Swedish Sporting Federation. So today I feel like I have more power than I usually, when I began playing. But I'm going to share my story that is from being a happy kid playing basketball to the Me Too movement and what that Me Too movement encouraged me to do as a player and as a board member. And the work that followed, of course. I think the Me Too movement probably sparked a lot in a lot of us and made us move. I'm sorry, this is hard. Like, I was supposed to talk at 11, so I need to get into my English. Let's start over. The work that followed to make sure basketball and sports is a safe space for everyone, no matter your skin color, your gender, your disability, your religion, or your socioeconomic status. This is going to be an attempt at telling my story and describing the feelings and emotions that were and are attached to the different phases of this story. For me, emotions and the feelings are important to take in consideration when you work with change. As I said, when I was 11, I started playing basketball. I had somewhat been introduced to basketball a couple of years before. I have an older brother who started playing basketball some years earlier. But when I was 11, I was swept away, and truly swept away, by the world of basketball. It was a space where people who looked like me, who had the same skin color, the same hair, the same eye color, it was a space where we were the stars, where it was desired to look like me, where my body in all its deliciousness belonged. So the sense of belonging was the first thing that appeared to me. This was the first time that I was exposed to the power of role models. I think you all have experienced that. And what the role models meant to me. A brown-skinned girl from Uppsala, Sweden, in the early 90s. This was everything. To have to enter a world where everybody looked like me and was supposed to look like me, and we were the stars. This was everything. So for me, founding basketball was a true love story. It was like falling in love, and the feeling was mutual. I felt embraced. I think many of us have experienced this feeling, a sport or activity that saves us. This was the first space where I felt that I could be all of me without reducing myself or trying to be less me and more other. I was a pretty good basketball player. I think this is a big part of my story. I think my ambitions stood in the way of me realizing that this was not a place for everybody. This was not a space where everybody felt safe. I foolishly believed that I had the power to pave my own way in basketball. That I could do or be a star if I only put in the work. Not knowing that this was a lie projected onto me by those who truly hold power and are not willing to share. So things my teammates and my peers experienced or raised concern about didn't resonate with me all the time. And I think this is because I was a pretty good player. I was always like pushed to take the next step and not stopping to think or feel about my emotions in sports. So I was kind of late to the game of recognizing that the love of my life, basketball, didn't treat everyone the same. I brought some pictures of, this is a news story from a Swedish newspaper, evening paper, about Noah, she was forced to stop playing basketball because she was wearing a hijab. So when you reach a certain level in basketball, you're not allowed to play basketball anymore. Happily, the rules have changed, but this was things I didn't notice in my journey or in my attempt to be the best. I didn't notice that skin color, gender, religious symbols, disability, or socioeconomic status creates hurdles and obstacles for us all that is not the norm. And that all the perks of being a brown-skinned girl in reality meant a lot of high expectations that I couldn't live up to. And mostly what my body couldn't live up to. Having this body, I was expected to be powerful, to be strong, to be quick, and that my skin color also projected low expectations from the coaches and leaders I met in basketball, that I was not a leader, that I was lazy, and that I was not a smart player. All attributes that white players get. You're smart, you can be a leader on the court. For me, those obstacles and hurdles was created by the people who upheld power in basketball and did not want to share. So my ability not to be able to see and acknowledge how many of us that is not the norm were and still are treated, I keep that as a reminder that when you are in the space, within the safe walls of the space, you can also be part of the problem. And what I mean by that is that you, consciously or unconsciously, contribute to uphold the discriminating structures that exclude people, and sometimes even yourself. Realizing this brought me a lot of sadness. And that a lot of us never truly has a chance to succeed. And that our participation is conditional. Not on our own terms or even on the same terms. We don't have the power to pave our own wave. Growing up in basketball, I was told that it's most diverse and the most diverse and the most equal sport in Sweden. If you only look at the statistics, this is true. Like if you count the heads, it's 50% female and it's 50% male if you only look at the two gender norm. And also the power of role models again. People like me finding the sports because you believe that it's a safe space for people who look like me. But there was no effort put into the work of the federation to make sure that when I entered into basketball, it was a safe space for me. We have all the role models and we have all like the pictures, but it's not truly a work put in to create a safe space. And this made me leave basketball for a couple of years. I tried to heal from my heartbreak that my true love, my first love in life, was not for everybody, and especially not for me. Yes. A big part of healing for me was to talk to a lot of people, to talk to friends and talk to friends of friends and share stories and exchange notes. So when the Me Too movement hit with all its power, we were ready and we were angry. Me and two of my close friends started a hashtag under the Me Too movement called Utfaulad. It's fouled out in Swedish. We reached out to former and current participants of the Swedish basketball community, and the stories poured in like it did with all the Me Too movement. The stories we shared on social media. So instead of relying on the statistics, we made sure that everyone's voice was heard. For us, this was only one part of a bigger plan. We didn't want to end with a hashtag. We demanded change. We demanded that those in power would listen and do the work to create a safe space for everybody. Looking back, this was one of the angriest periods of my life thus far. I believe that many of us experience anger during change, and especially during Me Too. The expression minority stress has lingered with me and helped me a lot in the work of creating change and a safe space. Being the minority and being sometimes the only one demanding change is stressful, and it creates stress, and for me it created a lot of anger. You are the one to have to raise awareness about something that is essential to your existence, and you're part of a community, and at the same time you need to help others out to make them help others around you understand the urgency of your situation. We, as I said, was on a mission. We didn't want to end with a hashtag, and for us this was more than a hashtag. We demanded to be listened to and demanded that those in power put in the work. They took in all the perspectives and listened to the testimonies that was pouring in. That they, instead of relying on statistics, educated themselves and put in the work to create a safe space for everyone. So our work resulted in a code of conduct, and the code of conduct will be implemented on all the levels in the federation. No matter your role, you needed to do the work and educate yourself. to be able to understand your part in upholding the structures that discriminates others. And I feel like standing here, I want to thank the Swedish Basketball Federation for doing the work and having the courage to speak out publicly about the issues they were struggling with. I feel like a lot of federations doesn't do that in sports. We try to encourage and empower others, but we need also to look at ourselves and do the work. What I'm upholding with my body when I'm in this room, what power do I not share with others? I feel the Swedish Basketball Federation and the Swedish sports community still needs to have the honest discussions about this. I don't think we can move forward otherwise. One of the big tests for us in the Swedish Basketball Federation came with the killing of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement. Once again, I felt anger and sadness that we didn't speak up. Initially, I thought we were back to the same place before the Me Too movement, but doing this honest work and doing this, looking ourselves in the mirror, like it has a Swedish expression, I think, but that was helpful even when the Black Lives Matter happened. So we could easily and quickly create roundtable talks about having a black body, a brown body, and having a space in Swedish basketball. I also want to say, my time is running out. I get asked a lot of times what my motivation for this is. Of course, having this body, I need to speak up. But my motivation is also for those of them who came before us and those who are coming after us. But also, as I started speaking about, my heart was broken. My heart is broken for those of you who cannot participate in sports because of upholding discriminatory structures. And if there's one thing I want to leave you with, is that change is hard. It takes a lot out of you. And sometimes people that are supposed to change, to be the leaders, are just as heartbroken as you are, even if they are the norm. But that their heartbreak is because their safe space, where they found their safe space, their sense of belonging, have turned out to be not a safe space for so many of us. And I feel like we need to be more, have more respect and be more graceful in the work of change. Thank you.
Happy to be here. So yeah, I'm Henrik, I'm 26 years old. I'm born and raised in Helsinki, and I'm a power swimmer. And I'm a student as well in Arcada, the University of Applied Science, and I love sports. I've always loved sports. I've always been doing sports since I was a kid. But swimming, I started quite late. I found swimming when I was around 16 years old, and through a friend I found swimming. But before that, I played floorball and tennis. But I had to unfortunately quit because of it hurted my legs. When I started with swimming, it wasn't really love at first sight, because I was not really good at it, and I always want to be good at the things what I do. But I still gave it a shot because I didn't have any other sports in mind at that time. So I was just give it a shot and see how it goes. But after a while, I started to get better and perform and I performed pretty well. I was in a group of para swimmers, which is swimmers with different kind of disabilities. And back then, we only trained like 3 times a week. But for a competitive swimmer, that's not really enough training. But and we were in the club. In our club, there was like normal swimmers, like elite swimmers there as well. But we don't really felt that we belonged in that club because no one really talked to us, or if we competed, no one really said, hey, good job or good luck, or like, even though we were in the club, we didn't really belong in the club. But at that time, I didn't really mind it that much because I was just very happy to compete and train because I love sport. And after I graduated from high school, I decided to move to Australia for a couple of years to expand my swimming and to get better. And the reason why I chose Australia was because Australia is known for one of the most successful countries in swimming. But it was pretty hard to find a club. So my first year, I was in Melbourne, and I swam with elderly people. It's called a masters group, where people were like around 30, 40 years old. We had good training, we had a great coach, but I felt it wasn't really for me. So, but I still competed in competition and did my best. But after a year, I found a swimming club in Sydney. So I moved there, and the coach there was actually Dutch. He was not Australian. So I asked him, like, or I sent an email to him, like, if I could start training with his club or squad. And for me, at that time, I would be happy to train in any group or anywhere. So, and he was, and he was like, yeah, just come along and let's see what we can do for you. So I didn't had so much expectations, nothing at all. So when I went there, he was like, yeah, we start training half hour. Are you prepared? Or I was like, yeah, I'm ready to go. And I didn't know really who I was going to train with, but he told me that I'm going to train with the elite squad, like the best swimmers in the club. And I was like really shocked, like, oh, really? Because I always has been training with people with all different kind of disabilities and not really seen myself as an elite swimmer or like that. But the club was very welcoming, and I felt really happy to be there and belonged, and I had like the best time of my life there in that club, or the first months in that club. And we train like 5 a.m. in the morning every day, and usually you're like, gee, I don't really want to wake up 5 a.m. every morning, but I enjoyed so much in that club to train there, because so I was really excited to go to bed and wake up next morning to train with the club, because it felt really that I belonged, and people saw me not for because I'm different, just because of my skills and and my enthusiasm, what I'm able to do. But after a couple of months, our coach got unfortunately fired, because Australia, as I said, Australia is a very competitive country of swimming. So so he got unfortunately fired. So, and the swimmers didn't really perform as they should. So if they're not performing, then they have to do some change. So he got unfortunately fired, and I got really upset because I got really good connected with that coach, and he taught me a lot of things, and he always included me in everything. But I still was like, okay, I'm going to give the new coach a shot. And when the new coach came, the first 2 weeks, he didn't look at me, he didn't say anything to me, or he didn't pretty much recognize me and gave any feedback. Usually after training, he went to everyone like, you did great at that, you did great at that. And then when it was my turn, you did great at that. And I was like, okay, well, I'm here to swim at the elite club, so I wouldn't mind. But after 2 weeks, we were doing some pretty hardcore training, and he was like, oh, Henrik, I love your technique. Great start, good jump, good turn. Like, oh, amazing. And I was like, oh, nice. Now I was thinking like, oh, now I'm getting pretty. We're getting pretty, like, we are now connecting good with the new coach. And I was like, oh, it's going well now. And after a while, but then just before the training was going to end, he was like, oh, is it possible after training you can come to my office? And then he said like, then he told me like he didn't, or he couldn't, he said he didn't, but he said he couldn't have me anymore in the elite squad because in his opinion, he was thought that it would be too complicated and he wouldn't give me the best training. But I was trying to tell him it's not rocket science. It's just swimming and you just have to think a bit outside the box. But he was like, yeah, it's not gonna work out. And then I was like, okay, so because we were like three in that club. There were like 3 different groups. There was the elite squad, the juniors, and the kids just who has pretty much learned recently swimming, and probably some of them are competing. He didn't put me in the junior squad. He put me in the kids group, and I was like double the age of the kids, and I am a person who cries like once or twice a year, but at that time I just bursted into tears because that's probably the lowest point I've ever felt in my life, because for something that you take really seriously and you perform or try to perform day in, day out, and someone to look at you like you're nothing. So it really hit me at that time, and so, but then Corona happened, and of course people were very upset when Corona happened. So, but I was not happy, but I was like, okay, this is good. Like I have some, because no one could swim at that time after that. So I was like, okay, good. That I need some time for myself and think what I should do. And after that, I decided to move to another club. It was not as big as a club as the club I was before, but it was a club where I felt included, and I got the training that I deserved, and the people didn't look at me at any less. But I was there until I came back to Finland after 3 years. And now when I'm back in Finland, when I came back to Finland, they had started like a elite Helsinki swimming academy group. I applied there. I sent an email, and first they didn't at all like reply to my email. Like, oh, did I make the team or did I not join the group? But then I just kept sending them email until they replied, and they were like, yeah, sorry, mate, it's like what the Australian coach said, it's too complicated, and we don't have the resources for that. Like, and I was just thinking, okay, I didn't really want to push them more or like to ask them more, because because I'm quite stubborn, and when people tell me that, yeah, I would love to have you, but I don't really see it happening and like that, then I directly see like, okay, they don't want to coach me, and if someone else doesn't want to coach me, then I don't want to be there, because then I don't perform and I don't enjoy what I do. But I've been talking to our swimming club, so now we train before when I left to Australia, we only trained like 3 times a week with our power group in Finland. But when I came back to our power group that I rejoined, we we train 3 times, plus we get 1 more time to train. They have given us 1 more time to train. But only unfortunate thing is that we have to pay it for ourselves. The 1 extra time because the club doesn't want to pay for it. But we have applied for funding and luckily we got some funding, so we don't have to pay it for ourselves. And then I've talked to the club that I tell them like 3-4 times a week isn't enough for me to train. So I just tell them, I've told them that if there any possibilities that I could like join with I don't have to join any other squad, but like I could train like a couple of times more with any other squads, and they have let me to train with the elite group now 2 times a week more. So I swim like 6 to 7 times a week now. So it's obviously not where I want we should be for people with different kind of disabilities and like that, but it's at least getting further, and I always think that what happened in Australia and Sydney, what the coach told me when he kicked out to me of the club, that's probably one of the most lowest moments in my life, but that's probably that has made me stronger and maybe fight for what is right, and I keep doing it. So and otherwise, if you can fight for what is right, and you don't have to be a pain in the ass, because if people think if you are satisfied with everything you get, obviously you should be satisfied what you have and what you get, but you should as well be known to know what you have the right to do and what you have the right and sorry, I have a bit of a blackout. But yeah, so what you have the right and what you think is right as well. And what I tell coaches and other leaders, it's not always what they have to give to us or what they have to do for us or something. It's at the same time what they can get from us and what we can give to them as well, not only for the coaches but from other swimmers and other clubs, because everyone is able to do anything, but maybe not just in the same way. But as I said, we are not there where we want to be, but it's getting further, and that's the main thing. And for now, I'm quite happy with that. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dakota Robin. I'm consulting, I have been consulting companies and communities around the world now 10 years about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the reason for that work is my own background. Like Henry and many of us here have been talking, often we don't choose our path, the path chooses us. And like the reason why I'm here today is that I also have a long sport background. I played 15 years football, but same thing happened to me. I was kicked out, and I was kicked out such an age that was really dangerous for me, because I was 13 years old when I was kicked out from my team that I was playing since I was 5 years old. So the team was the first place that I felt belongingness, and the team was like my family, because obviously we spend more time than almost more time together than with my rest of my family. But today I want to challenge a bit how we see people being different, and how we could also recognize that it's not just always that for people who are different that we need to put some extra. It's always needing some extra from us, but also that we could actually see that the differences bring something, not just that we have to give away of something that we recognize the differences. But what is people who are different? My background is that my dad is Kurdish. And Kurdish people are also people who we don't really talk, and the reason for that is it's easy to forget the people who lose their own land. And that's my dad's background, and my mom is from Finland. And I was born in Switzerland, and when I was 3 years old, we moved to Finland. And when we moved to Finland, we moved to Lahti. And people who live in Finland knows maybe the place, but and that is quite common that people start to a little bit laugh, because even my mom said that I think that somebody tested you already such a young age, because everything that God or somebody has given to you, who you really are, was putting in the place that wasn't really anything, wasn't recognized anything who you are. So the place Lahti in the start of the 19th, it wasn't the place that people's differences was seen as a strength or was a good thing in our community. It was that we said in Lahti that you get snäkärillä turpaa. So it was that, you know, how we say, if you go to have fun in the evening with your friends, and then after the bar or after the clubs close and you are hungry, then you go to the grill and you want to eat something, and that's snäkäri in Lahti. And it was always that if you're different, you have to be scared that you're going to be beaten up just because you are different. And that was the culture that I was raised as well. But obviously I couldn't hide my background. Many who see me, it's always when I say like I'm seen in Finland as a brown people, I no, but you're white. And I see also myself, I don't see myself so brown, but my heritage is coming from, like, I'm half Kurdish, and I'm never enough brown that I can complain about it, but I'm never one of the white people either. So I'm always between, and I'm always kind of the one that I would say that doesn't have enough rights to talk. But then I started my own career and took the mic, and nobody can stop me anymore. But then so my Kurdish background is not the only thing that makes me diverse, like all of us. Also, I have dyslexia and ADHD. That was also something that wasn't never recognized when I was a child. I was always just badly behaving girl. So I'm also transgender male. And that was also something that wasn't recognized. When I was 3 years old, when we moved to Finland, my grandparents started to kind of like taking more responsibility to help my single mom to raise us. And my grandfather was war veteran from Karjala. So the age gap with my grandfather was huge for me. My grandfather, I think that he was over 70 when he became my dad figure. And obviously he thought that he's like any other dad. He already raised so many kids. So he thought that it's a simple work. You know, he have used to raise children. So he said to my mom that my mom goes to run the family company and he takes care of me and my brother. And he thought like now when he's retired and he's so experienced of being dad, this is kind of easy work with the left hand. So he can just a little bit handle it, but he never recognized that now there is something new that he have to consider. He have children who have different kind of name for the environment we are, looks a little bit different, also speaks different language. And also then obviously when I was 3 years old, I told my grandfather, when I learned to speak, I told my grandfather that I am a boy. And that wasn't something my grandfather were used to hear from the really nicely, kindly, good girl behavior presenting kids. So basically, I was everything that nobody expected me to be, but that wasn't accepted. When people realized that I wasn't something that they accepted me to be, I was trying to mold to be more normal. And I always hear since my childhood, why you are just not normal? Why you can't just act like normal? Why you can't just be like rest of us? And I didn't understand like, what is wrong with me? I feel quite normal. and I don't see why I'm so different, but I start to realize that adults around me start to put me being different. So when I was 5 years old, I started to play a soccer club in my town. And the soccer club, like in a small town, when you have 2 soccer clubs, you know that they hate each other, and you always, it doesn't matter who you win, but you have to win the other soccer club in your city. And we had FC Reipas and FC Kuususi in Lahti, and FC Reipas, they didn't have a team for girls. They have only team for boys, and my older brother was playing in the FC Reipas. So obviously I was FC Reipas fan, and I wanted to play in the same team like my brother. So luckily my mom fighted me that I can start in that club to play football, and that basically saved my life. I felt like, you know, that was the first place as a child that I felt like belongingness. Nobody always put me sides, and I felt like, you know, I kind of like, I matter somehow, and I felt safe because we had like 50 kids, and they, you know, I had so many friends in there, and I felt like so many times when other teams were saying like, oh, there's girl playing, and they were saying something bad, then my friends were there like, okay, let's just fight. And that always pushed us more fight to win the team, obviously in the field, because they kind of wanted to show off, and then they wanted me to get this like, that I also did goals, and like it was, I don't know how to describe, but it was this that we were together, and not that what I used to be is like, oh, it's like the normal people, and then it's you. Then, you know, if we have to accept you part of us, then we have to. But that was in that football team, that wasn't that we have to. I was actually really good at playing football, and I was really good like a kid. So, you know, when we are kids doesn't really matter. Like, they don't really care, are we different from each other? What they care is, are you good what we're doing? And then what they care is, are you a nice person? You know, if you're loyal, if you're nice, kids likes you. So I was really liked until we turned 13. We have also team, the first team, and then we have until the fourth. Like, so we have 4 different teams. And I was still, as a 13 years old, I was still playing the first team, so in the best team. But then our coach changed, and the new coach basically said that I'm going to build the team for the future, and maybe you're now good, but in a few years you're not going to be good at it anymore. So it's better that you move on and leave for the team. So they kick out me from the team. And I was 13. So since I was 5 years old until I was 13, I play soccer from 4 times a week to sometimes 6 times a week. And now I have all the spare time to use as a teenager. Don't know anymore where to belong. Always when I ask my friends in the schools that, you know, like, should we go hang out after the school? And my friends were saying like, don't you remember we have training? And I was like, oh yeah, true. So they went, all my friends after the school went to training. So I didn't know what to do. I had to find my new tribe. And where I found my new tribe was with the kids who also have too much spare time, didn't have the belongingness, and didn't know, were a little bit lost. So I found myself in the shopping malls hanging out. And it didn't take even 1 year from really good manners kid to become gang member. So I end up like gangs. We didn't really call ourselves gangs, but we stole cars. Some people sell drugs, and a lot of them are still in that path, and a lot of them are already dead. But I end up in that kind of environment when I was 13. And I remember it took maybe 2 years. I was kind of like slipped from the path that I was raised and who I really was. I was really good mannered kid. Like, my grandfather raised me really well, and I loved sport. And my mom said when I was, I think, 15, 16, my mom came to police station to pick me up because I didn't know what that time we did. And she asked me like what she had done wrong. And I said like nothing. Sorry. She said that she's a single mother and she tried so badly to help me, but she doesn't understand why it is punishing that now she's stigmatized as a single mother who can't take care of the kid. But it was never her. It was always other people. And so that moment, I realized that that I can't anymore act like this and do these things, harm others, stealing other people's things, hurt others, because this is not who I am. But I was in so much pain that it was so hard to see what kind of pain I cause others. And I see kids like me. It's easy to judge people who react from the pain, but kids don't born to be bad, and human beings are not born to be bad. Often when we act, it's come from the pain, and it's easily to judge because you have never felt this kind of pain. You are like seeing like, oh, they are acting like that because they're different. But you always treating people different cause the pain for the rest of us. So basically, I didn't plan to cry today. Normally I don't, but this is kind of personal things. But like these things that when we taught people being different is that it's not that we just call people being different, but the different people are always less than the people who we see more normal. It can be skin color, it can be religion, it can be, gender identity, it can be whatever, but we see like, oh, it's us, and then there's those people who are different. And the different people are always treated less and less liked, less wanted, less, their needs are less seen in laws and everything. So if we think about what is really being different, that means that something like more normal have to exist, but it doesn't exist. What is normal people? It could be skin color. We see in Finland that we more support, and we see like, oh, those people who are more brown are different. And then the white skin color, that we are the normal. But if we bring us Finnish people in the different environment, we bring them to Africa, we bring to Asia, what happens to the normal person is not anymore normal. So it's not that any of us is normal. We all are different from each other. But we have to stop seeing differences always from that they are lacking, or they are always less from the image that we have seen normal, but it's more just common in environment. So it's not normal, it can be just more common. And if we go from here to Lahti, what is common in Helsinki is different common in Lahti. So, it's nothing that it's true, it's just something that we have created, and that's something that we use now against each other, that we can treat people less because we see that they're not normal human beings, and that's dehumanizing people, and that's not obviously good. And then we use shame to belongingness. So we all need belongingness, and then we use shame to shape people to act like how we want people to be, like people to act. So I learned such a young age in my childhood that for my happiness or success and well-being in life, it's more important to learn what other people needs from me and what other people wants from me, that I can belong somewhere. So basically learn to see what other people want you to behave, look like, do, live your life, and fulfill other people's needs with your life. So fulfill what they need and want from you, and never recognize your own needs and fulfill them. But then it took me so long time, I was over 20 when I learned that if I always fulfill what everybody else wants from me and needs from me and everybody else needs, I never fulfill my own needs. And that's not gonna be something that gonna last long. And that also, I was suicidal, and I was really like suffering a lot of mental health issues all my childhood. And basically, I always were taught that it's because I'm different. But I was never taught that it was not because I was different, it was because people were treating me badly because I was different. So basically, we see still like trans youths and many kids who can be suicidal, can be more danger to do something wrong, and we see that because their background is causing that. but actually we are causing that. Societies are causing that. It's not who they are, it's who we have made them to be. And if we think about how we use the shame, it could be even like, you know, I have a lot of male friends who such a young child, like when they were such a young age, they were children, and they were playing among other boys, and one person fall down, hurt their knee. What's normal physical pain? A reaction for the physical pain is that tears comes in your eyes. We call it crying, but suddenly it's not anymore acceptable for boys to basically have their own needs and express the pain the normal human way and crying for the pain. So basically, one boy hit their knee, have the pain, start to cry. What the rest of us is doing, because we learn that this behavior is not okay. And if you want to feel safe and belongingness, you're going to act like we want you to act. So we start to shame the one person from the act. We can start to question their sexuality. Or also, as harmful, we start to connect that you are less like a man. We take the manhood away from the early age, the boys, and calling them girls, women, with shaming, like basically not respecting, shaming, putting them down, and dehumanizing. So that is only meaning that what we do them is also teaching that feminine sides and people who are more feminine sides is less like you, and you don't have to respect them. That's already putting, when we are just trying to shape them to the mold that we want. And still, if they don't stop the behavior, what we want them to stop, then if the shame is not enough, that we bullying and shaming them from the behavior, then the last really strong tool is that then we are not going to play with you. Then you're going to be left alone. So the belongingness. And the belongingness is that actually doctors have been showing that we can straight away connect the expected life spenders, like how long people live their life, for the belongingness. So people who are lonely, people who don't feel that they can belong who they really are, they have to be somebody else, or they have to act like somebody else to feel quite like even to be accepted among others. And that being lonely can straight away be connected that how long the person is going to live their life. So we need tribe, we need belongingness. It doesn't matter if we don't have to hunt anymore. In Finland, to get food, obviously it's not everywhere the same. In Finland at the moment, we don't have to be scared that the next village come to take us, but it's only in Finland, it's not in the whole world. But still, we still need the tribe, the belongingness, and that feels like that the bigger group is taking care of our needs. So we are not only person who is taking care of us. So basically, if our needs are heard and met among other people in our tribe, that is basically the sign of safetyness for us. And if we feel like we only have to take care of our own needs and nobody else is taking care of our survival, then it's feeling like that is fight or flight. So we are all the time in the stress, and that can cause a lot of pain, not just for us, but also the communities around us. Here, I realized that when I started to cry, I didn't change any of the but yeah, basically, even we have survived in the teams that we have different strength. Even football team, if we would always see that every kid have to be good at the same things, who is going to be the goalkeeper, who is going to do the goals? There are kids who have to be like, or not even kids, but we need different kind of people to be strong team. We don't, if we are making communities and groups who are like each other's, it's that they have the same strength, but they have the same weaknesses, because I have weaknesses, you have weaknesses, nobody is perfect. We don't have everything, because our life teach some things, and we can't have all the strengths. So my strength is something that you don't have, and your strength is something I don't have, and that's why we complete each other, but we are not just maybe always look alike. Here was, wait, is this working anymore? I think the time was running out really for me. Yeah? Yeah. So here was one picture. I gave the interview about how harmful that was when we don't give trans people right to the sport. This was in the magazine when I did the winning call and I think I was there 12 years old, and you know, I wasn't weaker than the boys. The boys were running after me, and but that's something that coach didn't see because they was just seeing that you're a girl when I wasn't even. But I luckily when I was 16, 17 years old, I started to play soccer again. In 1 year, I ended up to play women's league and national team. But I realized really quickly that all the winning didn't feel anything. I always felt like this is not my team and I'm not winning for myself, and I felt like I'm lying to myself and lying to others. So basically after one EU tournament, I came home and I quit football for that place. And then it's starting again, finding myself again, and it was painful, but it was something that I really needed. Through the eating disorders, we started to realize that I was really transgender, and it took me 18 years to learn about trans people. So I was 18 when I first time heard that trans people exist. And even when I was 3 years old, and I already told 3 years old that I'm trans, like that I'm a boy. But I was asked in the end to also, if you want to take a picture, this is something you can share, but there is different kind of common discrimination shapes that we see in the sport as well. But what I still want to say to the end is that we have to unlearn many things that we have learned. We have to unlearn the things that who are different, who are people who are different, but also who have the right to do the sport, who have the right to healthy lifestyles, and who have the right to find themselves in the, you know, always discriminated and being the moles. And then if you do something wrong, you are always the one who are punished the most, but not just you. I know that as long as I have my really good running company now, because in Finland this topic's about DEI, like diversity, equity, inclusion. It's a huge topic because we have a lot of problems in Finland with that. Like 2023, we were the most racist country in Europe, and it's a truth. It's not something that we can just, if we haven't, as a white-skinned people, to see it, that it doesn't exist. It's the truth. But I know that as long as I do my work and I do really well my work and pay taxes, I can be barely one of us. But then if I do any crime, if I do any mistakes, the news are not going to write about me as a war veteran hero's son from Finland. I'm going to be the Kurdish transgender male who did these things. And then the next conversation is not going to start to ask, is trans people mental health okay? Is kids like me going to be safe here and supported? The conversation is going to be, is people like him, trans people or Kurdish people, are they safe for the rest of us? And that's always the conversation. Are we safe people like with them? But it's never happened if the neighbor, white-skinned, typical Pekka in Finland do the crime. We are not going to ask if the Finnish people are safe for the rest of the Finnish people or rest of Europe. So we have to understand this kind of things. But yeah, this was my time. It's a little bit short, but thank you so much.
Oh, right, you have one. Oh, sorry. Yes, want to be needed. Well, thank you all panelists for very interesting and also heartbreaking stories. And it's perhaps sad to hear that perhaps all of you somehow have had to hit the rock bottom to get to feel and become strong and to be able to do the things that you really enjoy doing and also working for the good things that you are all three working for. But still, it's also clear, based on your presentations or the talks that you've given, that also sports has played a big role in your life and also have had some really important and positive impact. And I think that would be a good place where to start our discussion. So would you like to tell something, or perhaps what has been the most meaningful experience for you that you've had by being able to do sports? Who would like to start?
Well, I didn't want to start because I was just having a long speech already. But I guess the belongingness. I can really say hand in my heart that I would not be alive today if I wouldn't have the chance to do the sport. Sport was also some place that I could express my feelings. When I was a kid and I didn't realize how much I was like having a pain, and I was raised to be a good girl, so it was never that you can behave badly, but actually in sport field, I didn't have to be a good girl. I could fight, I can, you know, I don't know, I could, sport was a place that I navigated with my feelings, and I didn't realize before becoming an adult that without that, I don't know what kind of pain I could be causing myself and others if it wasn't the sport field that I could fight.
And I feel like repeating the same thing. It's a safe space, it's belonging, the sense of belonging, and also the space where you can be yourself. It truly, the biggest lie for me was that I truly thought that it didn't matter who I was in the beginning. And that feeling is a good feeling, that you can be yourself. Of course, that changes throughout the years, but that feeling is important.
Probably making the national team and qualifying for international competitions, because then you meet all different kind of countries with similar backgrounds, and you can hear their stories, and then you can hear, and it feels good because you have a lot in common, and it feels like you're not alone as well at the same time.
Right. And perhaps that's also an indication about, if you think about what has been in focus of this project, that the sports environment can create great possibilities and communities for bringing people aboard and feeling included. Then if you speak about skills, I bet you've also learned many important life skills by doing sports. Could you give examples of some skills that you've learned through sports which have helped you in life in general?
I feel I have a sense of a big självförtroende. Jag tappade det på svenska. Confidence. My confidence yes. is huge. I walk into rooms with a straight back, and I feel like, I don't know, I feel my confidence is something I want to contribute to sports, being in sports, that I have a huge confidence.
I would probably say that the life skill that taught me, you don't always have to be, it doesn't have to be in sports, but it can be in anything. You don't always have to be the most talented or the most gifted one. You can, so long you believe in yourself and do the hard work and push to the limit, and then anything is possible, I would say. This is a life goal that I've been following.
Thank you.
Yeah, I feel that both the same, kind of like find your own power in one way, that you start to realize that you can trust yourself and you are capable of many things that maybe you weren't like taught that you are before, but also the sharing and being a team was really important things that, you know, I remember as a child when before the coach changed, like if there were kids who were maybe sometimes weaker in the sport field or they had different strength, the coaches were always saying like, you know, everybody matters. And that was something that if you have a good coach, that can really change the life, because I still think about this thing that, okay, surround yourself with the people who are different from you. They're your strength. And that's something that the coach in the early age taught me, that you need good team around you, and good team player is respecting every of them and not just people who maybe you like the most. So
slightly different experiences of skills that you've learned, but perhaps they all link together, and also it seems like that you could recognize the skills that the others are presenting. Then thinking about the environment that the sports clubs creates for actually gaining and learning these new skills or realizing the skills that you actually possess. So basically empowering you. What are the elements that are essential to be in this environment that the sports clubs, perhaps your equals, the members, the players in the team, but also the coaches and perhaps also management level in the associations, what do they need to recognize and think about to create such a good learning experience?
They should probably think that that something that could include everyone with them. Like if they have any sports or any clubs, like everyone can attend, everyone can do anything, but maybe not in the same way. Not in the same way, and then as well, like give everyone a shot despite your background or what ethnicity or what disability you have. So everyone has the right to feel belonged and included.
I feel like coaches and managements need to educate themselves. It's hard to, like, many of us start to do a sport or play a sport because our parents did, or I coach my kid. But if you coach your kid, you still need to educate yourself in all the things that Ken is talking about. Like, you need to know how to welcome people, how to include them, and what the hurdles are for people that are not yourself. So you need to look out of yourself, like outside of the box, and meet new people.
Yeah, I agree with the knowledge. That's the thing, like every community, is it sport community or whatever, like when like I say, my grandfather, he thought that he's gonna be doing the right thing because he had raised the 4 other kids before us. But then this could be like, I think I'm a good coach because I have been playing football such a long time. But it is like, it's not now just the football. It's how you involve the other people, how you teach them, how they learn, this pedagogic like teaching style. And also we have to understand our unconscious biases. Like, I am transgender, I was raised to be a good girl, so I could easily think that I don't have misogynist thoughts, or because my dad is Kurdish and he's Muslim, I could easily think that I could never have any racist kind of behavior patterns or thought patterns. But often our behavior patterns and thought patterns can be something that it's not in line with the image that we have about ourselves, because we have to think about what kind of environment we have been evolved. So, in the Finnish environment, like how we have been discussed about women, and how the imagery about women in sport or whatever it is, it's something that it's not just in men's head, it's everybody's heads. My mom catch herself from having harmful thoughts, like misogynist thoughts about women, even she's feminist and she's 70. And she's like, where did this come from? I was like, in your environment. I have harmful racist thoughts, even that my ethnic background is different, but it's like how media have been discussed, how environments have been discussed. So those are the things that even if you say like, I don't discriminate, I'm a good human being, I have good values, we all have unconscious biases from our environment, that our communities and our societies haven't been good, and they haven't been not racist. So, even you think you are not, you have been input and get things in you that are now shaping the way you react to the situation without you being aware of. So we all have to not kick ourselves down, but watching the mirror, like, what have I learned from my environment that is not in line with the person I really am? and what is the things that I have to unlearn. And there's a lot of things we have to unlearn, because now we start to talk about these racial issues and a lot of issues, but the environment we have been long time and the things that we have been getting in our brain, it's really discriminating things.
Thank you. Now we will need to end this session, but thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and also giving some food for thoughts for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your such interesting conversation and sharing your experiences with us. It was super interesting to watch and made a huge impact to me. Great. There is one important theme today, and today's main topics is safety and forced migration in sports. In the world of sports, it's important to look at the things that create unsafe environments. They may lead to long-lasting effects on people and communities. Often, the discussions about safe sports focus more on cultural differences, which can limit our understanding of how athletes from refugee backgrounds experience safety. Research shows that the process of forced migration causes stress before, during, and after moving, which impacts the safety of refugee athletes. This phenomenon happens at all levels of sport, all the way from community teams to professional athletes. It also varies depending on the athlete's culture, sports organization, and migration background. So, today we have a great pleasure to welcome Dr. Cole Giffin. His talk is about how improving safety in sports can help make it more inclusive, safe, and supportive. Cole will explain why it's important to have a wider view of safe sports, and Cole is using 2 projects with refugee athletes as examples. One project focuses on elite athletes supported by the Advanced Olympic Research Grant Program, and the other works with refugee youth in community sports supported by the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada. Cole will also discuss practical ways to build connections with refugee athletes, and thus helping us to create safer and more inclusive sports environments. We are so excited to hear from you, Cole. Warm welcome. If the connection to Canada is working.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, all good, we can hear you. Okay, Cole, it's all yours.
Oh, this is so very exciting. It's 4:30 here in Canada. The sun is still sleeping. It's -10 out, and there's no place I'd rather be than sharing the stage and sharing this conference with you all. I have about 20 minutes to present here, so I'm going to focus most of this presentation on elite athletes. In the panel we just heard, one of the questions that stuck with me is, how do you create inclusive environments that are good learning for everyone in the environment? And I hope I can add to what Dakota, Azoko, and Henrik, my apologies if the pronunciation is off there, what they shared. My name's Cole Giffin. Robert Schinke, Diana Kahalik, Michelle Lariviere, and Thierry Middleton couldn't be here today, but I'm presenting on behalf of of all of our co-authors in this wonderful grant project. One thing I really want to share here, and I think Henrik mentioned it during his panel, it's about learning from the athletes. So while we want to create safe sport environments for forced migrant athletes, what I really want to take away from this presentation is how can we learn from forced migrant athletes to help us create safer environments for all? And that's one of the key takeaways that I really hope we can share today. I'm going to begin with a brief theoretical background. There might be some technical terms here, but I'm going to do my best to explain them. And then I'm going to get into a little bit of art from our project. And then I'm going to end this presentation with a couple key lessons that we can learn from forced migrant athletes. So I really want to begin this presentation by introducing what I mean by safety. There's really two approaches that we can take towards understanding safety, and safety is best when we approach it through both of these perspectives. So on one side of the pendulum, we have something called objective safety. And what I mean here is objective safety is just reducing the likelihood of harm. It's just doing everything to minimize risk within environments. Subjective safety is actually how you feel about safety. Differs between everyone. So in North America, American football is really popular. Not my favorite sport. My favorite sport is football and soccer. But one thing they're introducing is they're putting almost these rugby caps on top of football helmets to reduce the force between athletes as they tackle one another. This is a really good example of objective safety, where they're creating an environment that minimizes the risk of head injury by putting on these caps that absorb the impact of any sort of tackle or head injury. Subjective safety is a little bit more complicated. It's everyone's perception of safety and the factors that help them feel safe. So when you think about perception, you can think about their demographics, their age, their vulnerability within different contexts, and most importantly, their previous experiences. So Dakota was mentioning how, as you move between contexts, the environment around you will influence how you feel. And that's really the same with this idea of subjective safety. So if we have an athlete with a history of head injuries, and they're asked to put this cap on as a way to reduce their harm or reduce the impact of injury, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to feel safe in that helmet. And that idea of subjective safety is really important when we're working with forced migrant athletes. So this idea of safety has come up repeatedly within the last 15 or 20 years, and that's in a direct relative comparison to how much harm we're actually beginning to recognize within our environments. This is something I've studied since my master's, which is about 7 or 8 years ago, where I really tried to understand, what is abuse and what is violence, and how does that differ between us? When we look and talk about safe sport and violence within sport, I know Teen Vertommen was going to be one of your speakers. And we've talked about this at length. Our understanding of abuse and subsequently safety is understood from what we call a cross-cultural perspective. All that means is that our understanding in Canada and our understanding in Finland and our understanding in Belgium differs between our cultures and our countries. So, for example, in a survey of Canadian athletes, 75% of athletes reported at least one form of harm taking place within their environment. Now, you can compare that to some of Teen's work, where 11 to 38% of athletes in her survey identified one type of harm, depending on the type of harm. Generally, psychological abuse is a little bit more prevalent. What that tells us is that the prevalence of Canada and the prevalence of harm in Belgium and the Netherlands is different. But what it sort of fails to get at is the underlying diversity within those countries and how safety differs between us. Now, as a result of all of this research on abuse and violence, which has been absolutely fantastic over the last decade, we're beginning to create what we call safe sport interventions. So here in Canada, we have something called abuse-free sport. It includes a reporting hotline, like a phone that you can call into and report abuse if you've experienced it. It includes a really comprehensive safe sport education program. In Belgium, they have this thing coming up called Safe Sport Inspiration Days. And I believe in Finland, you have something that's called Allowed to Care and Allowed to Intervene. All of these interventions are designed to protect athletes from harm, but they're very broad and encompassing. So it's sort of an umbrella that everyone fits underneath of. And we're all supposed to be happy fitting underneath this same umbrella. These are fantastic sports, and I don't want to be overly critical here. I actually want to support what we've done because we've come a long way since the 2000s. But what we might notice is that we're trying to create objectively safe environments where harm is minimized or prevented. When we look into countries a little bit deeper, we recognize that we are all very diverse. For example, in Canada, roughly 15% of our athletes who've competed at the Olympics come from an immigration background. Knowing that we're so diverse in culture, we have to take a look at these interventions and ask ourselves, will they work for different populations of people? So if we go back and think about that Safe Sport Reporting hotline, I can call into that hotline right now on my phone and speak to someone in English or French. But if you think about someone coming from a forced migration background where English or French are not their first, second, or even third language, are they going to be able to access that hotline? Are they going to be able to feel safe? And that's what we really, really want to know, is that deep subjective understanding of what it means to feel safe and included within these different sport environments. Now, this move to subjective safety requires what we would call a mindset or a conceptual shift. One way I believe we can do this is something called occupational health and safety. That's what we call it in Canada. It might be a little bit different in Finland, but it's essentially a safety framework that protects workers from harm. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but if you were to go to work, there's policies and procedures that workplaces have to follow in order to keep you safe and free from harm. So it works through 5 levels. It differs between countries. So right away, you're working through this sort of cultural perspective because policies in Canada are going to be very different than policies in Finland. And it works differently depending on the sport level. So we have different safe sport interventions for youth athletes, and we have different safe sport interventions for elite athletes. So right now, we're doing really, really well in these 2 sort of nested categories, where I believe that we're an area that we need to work on, that we are, which is exemplified by having a conference on it, is having different safe sport interventions based on the organization, based on the relationships within those organizations, and most importantly, based on the individual. Really working from what we call a bottom up. So using the individual as the center of what safety means and having the individual inform what safety means within different organizations and different relationships. So knowing sort of all of this, that's the theoretical background I wanted to share with you. Knowing that you're all coming from different organizations, so you're going to use this information in a different way. You have different relationships within these organizations, and one of the central themes being forced migration and improving the environments for forced migrants. I'd like to try and share with you how to develop connection, develop belonging with people who have vastly different cultural and lived experiences as a way to transform our organizations to foster inclusion and support. I'm one piece of the puzzle, and I'd like to thank all of the speakers that have spoken so far because they've contributed to this, and also all the speakers that are going to come. So with all that being said, we were able to conduct a really interesting project that was funded by the Olympic Studies Center. And the purpose of this project was to provide elite refugee athletes with an opportunity to recount their relocation experiences and the factors that influenced their safety while training at the elite level. What I mean by elite here is that we worked with athletes who competed nationally within Canada or internationally. So they've been to the Olympics essentially. And what I mean by factors that influence their safety, I'm not just thinking about the negative factors that make them feel unsafe. Again, Dakota said it best. We worked from a strength-based perspective. So we wanted to understand some of the factors that help them feel safe. because we went in assuming that some environments are going to have those factors that are really positive and really supportive. Why can't we unearth these a little bit and change our mindset on what safety means? To do this, we had sort of a two-based approach. So we started with an arts-based drawing activity, and then we used that art as a way to share stories and share connections through a conversational interview. I won't spend too much time on this, but the purpose here was, if I was a researcher going into a conversation with a forced migrant athlete who I definitely do not have similar experiences as, if I'm coming in with my own questions, am I really creating a space where they can share what they really want to share with me? There's also cultural differences and language differences that we have to learn how to overcome at the same time. Art as a way to share these stories is really effective, and it's something I'm going to share at the end of this presentation. But art's a really good way to build that connection, build that belonging, and build that inclusion within the research that we can then use to collect some really, really nice empirical data. With this being said, we were able to speak with 14 forced migrant athletes, 11 of which were male, 3 female. To protect their safety, I'm not going to share the countries that they came from, but they migrated from the continents of Asia, Europe, and Africa. And the interviews lasted between, an hour and a half and 3 hours, which is a long interview for any sort of research project. So this is an example of a drawing that one of the athletes drew, and I've made up a name for this athlete again to protect his safety. But his name was Amari, and I want to take you through this arts-based activity as a way to understand how we can use it within our organizations. Essentially, I asked the athlete to draw up their experiences of relocation and factors that help them feel safe, and this is what the athlete drew. We use this as a way to connect. So I'd ask him questions like, could you tell me what the sun means? Do you mind telling me what the earth means? And here are some of the things that he shared with me regarding safety. So as you see right away, he used his art to depict a scene that included a lot of nature. The whole picture is nature, and it shows his connection to the environment and how the environment influences his perspective and everyday life. There's a few really important pieces here. The clouds, which you'll see sort of at the top middle part of the screen with rain coming down from them, those represent all the bad days and the moments in his life that he finds challenging. So we were able to use those clouds and those rain clouds to dig into what some of those challenges were. One of his challenges, not being able to train because of citizenship issues. So he migrated to Canada with this elite experience of being a really elite performer, but he wasn't able to train because he didn't have permanent residence. He wasn't accepted within his team for who he was. He actually had to leave some of his family members at home who didn't want to do the migration journey with him. And like clouds and like rain, these thoughts and these memories keep coming back. So there's never a state or a day or a year where it's permanently sunny. We're always getting precipitation. And this cloud represented those memories coming back over and over and over again. The earth represents this athlete's connection between people. So for this athlete, this connection was all of those people who he's known in the past, all of the people who've come before him, all the people he knows in the present, and the future generation of forced migrant athletes who are going to compete within Canada. The sun represents all of those things in life that we cannot control. So one of the quotes he said here is, "The sun shines whether we are successful or not. It's always there despite the challenges that might prevent it from being seen." This athlete found safety in knowing that all of these challenges that he faces are going to pass. Now, with that being said, knowing that these challenges are going to pass, he recognized the only thing he could control was himself. One example of this came in a competition against an opponent. The opponent was being very disrespectful, sort of taunting this athlete as he was competing, and he could have easily fallen into a similar attitude, but instead took a step back and acted from his values, something that he could control, and that helped him feel safe. All of this, knowing that there's going to be challenges that we can't control, knowing that his worth is not defined by success, and having support was influential for this athlete's journey, which he represented through this mountain. Now, one of the important things here is that this mountain has lots of little crevices on it, and this was to represent that every journey up a mountain has a different path. And he was on his own path and feeling supported by coaches, helped him reach the top of his career on his own path. Now, this is a second piece of art that was drawn, much different. For this athlete, he really wanted to reflect on his home country, which is actually represented on the left side of the screen. You'll see that it's dark, it feels cold, there's a lack of color. Deo described that he wanted to be an astronaut when he grew up, and he wanted to be an Olympic champion. He explained that he had all the resources to achieve this goal. So he knew the language, he had the family support, he had the finances, and all of that's represented by that little branch at the bottom of the tree. He could essentially climb up this tree and reach for all of his goals, but as you'll see, there's nothing to reach for. There's nothing for him to pick once he's up the top of the tree, and that represented how he felt about his home country. Now, if you look on the right side of the page, you'll notice a totally different story. This tree has life, there's color, there's brightness, there's things to pick and things to reach for. And all of these different apples represented either a challenge, so something that was in red, or something for him to work for. So again, some of those challenges included learning a new language, finances, having to train and work at the same time. But all of this was bearable because he had something to achieve. He had something to reach for. There's no branch for this athlete to step on and reach for his goals, but he knows he's going to get there one day. And just having that hope was safe for this athlete. That made him feel like he was there. Now, some other things that helped this athlete work towards his vision: teammate support in learning a new language. He described at a training camp, he was sitting in a river by himself, and his teammates came up and they were able to share stories and learn different words, like what a rock means in Canadian and English versus what it meant in his home country. Having the organization that he competed for welcome his family and his coaches. This athlete came from a culture that was really important, that family's involved in everything you do, and this organization supported that, and that helped him feel safe. Now, I'm sort of rushing this. I have about 4 minutes to share what I want to share here. There's a couple lessons we can learn from forced migrant athletes. The first is that a safe environment welcomes this diversity. Dakota said it best: we share our similarities, but we want to celebrate our differences because it makes the group whole. Now, the first step in doing this is actually just having an open mind, which is represented by this open door, and being willing to understand that people have different experiences that can actually help us grow. Now, once that door is open, subjective safety requires deep relationships, belonging, and inclusion. That was one of our findings. We all know that every journey is a little bit different. There's multiple paths up the same mountain. Coaches that support that path are going to create that subjective sense of safety. Relationships can be formed by taking the time to learn about athletes' backgrounds while also sharing your own with the athletes. Sharing meals from the athlete's culture is another great way to develop these relationships. But all of this relates to the athlete's culture. So if an athlete's coming from a collectivist culture, like Africa, for example, athletes might want to feel included in the group by helping the group succeed. If an athlete's coming from a culture that prioritizes family, being able to welcome that family into the sporting environment is a great way to create that sense of safety and inclusion. Safety can be approached individually and collectively, and this was sort of a finding that challenges our understanding of safety, but sometimes subjective safety is also a perspective. And being able to help athletes see their challenges and their rain clouds in new ways can help them feel safe. And finally, safety in safe sport also should include health promotion. So although we're trying to minimize risk, forced migrant athletes teach us that safety must be balanced with opportunities to improve well-being. So there's always going to be rain clouds, there's always going to be challenges, but we need to provide opportunities for athletes to grow within these environments and overcome their challenges. Again, all of this is based on relationships, belonging, and support, and without those three key pillars, that balance will never happen. Now, those are sort of really abstract ways to sort of improve your organizations. And I know what you're saying, Cole, this isn't really concrete. What can I do today to improve my organization that I'm working for so that the athlete actually helps decide what's safe and what isn't safe? The first step I'd recommend is actually draw. engage in an arts-based activity, ask the athlete to draw about what safety means to them within their environment, and then talk about it. You can use the art as a conversational centerpiece. You can ask questions like, do you mind telling me why you use the color red here? Do you mind telling me why you drew this image? What does this image mean to you? You can actually develop that connection through talking about the drawing. And the final stage is walking. So after you've drawn and you've talked, ask the athlete to take you through your organization and point out things that are safe versus unsafe. Again, I'll quote Dakota, the environment holds the memories for the athlete. So if they can take you through the environment and tell you what's safe versus unsafe, you're going to get a really good understanding about how to improve your environment to be a little bit more inclusive and belonging. This is a process that never ends, right? So doing this with athletes as they come in and as they leave is a great way to improve your environments. Now, again, it was really quick. There's a lot of information there. If you want to learn some more information, please feel free to contact me. I'm always open to having a phone call, having a Zoom, exchanging emails. Just please let me know. I'll wake up at 3:30 a.m. for you. I believe it's lunchtime for you now, so thank you so much for your attention. I'm happy to answer questions at a later date, but I really appreciate being here. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you, Cole. Thank you, Cole, for your really essentially impactful presentation. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
And also, thank you to all our morning speakers and participants. It's really been really important and meaningful throughout the morning. Thank you all for that. But you know, I'm getting a bit hungry here. I bet you guys are too, yeah? Okay, good, sounds good. So we could take the lunch all together, just around the corner, and it's going to be a fantastic lunch with a lot of discussion, conversation. Let's keep the talking going there, enjoy good food, and we'll continue here at 12:45. So, yeah, see you then. Good, looking good. Excellent. Okay, during the morning, we have heard important study data and also practical experience on improving safety and equality in sports. In a moment, we will learn how things are carried out in Sweden. But before that, we now have a special surprise program. The program highlights the importance of teamwork and support in sports. Welcome on stage, The Mist.
Welcome to the world of magic. Got the hunger, we got the passion. It's time for some action. No matter go, tell me all the ways you need me. just like the sun, making all opponents run. Gold medals, here we come.
The Mist one more time. That was amazing. Thank you for the amazing performance. A lot of action, a lot of energy. All right. Next, we're going to wait. The Mist take out the mattresses and stuff from the stage. And we will prepare ourselves to hear how to create an inclusive sports environment. Sofia B. Karlsson is an expert who has worked on equality in various Swedish sports organizations. She has extensive experience as a consultant and a project manager, and her work is highly regarded not only in Sweden, but also internationally. Sofia has also been involved in projects supporting the integration of immigrant background children and youth in various sports communities. Let's take a look. We could actually wait here until we can get the stage cleared. Actually, meanwhile, yeah, let's take a look. And right before Sofia starts her presentation, I would like to teach you one sign. Okay? Ready? Hands are ready? Show me your hands. Come on, come on. Yeah, looking good, looking good. And the sign in Finnish Sign Language, this is for the sports. Put your thumbs up and wiggle them around in front of you. This is the Finnish Sign Language sign for sports. Perfect, doing a great job, amazing. All right, and now let's warmly welcome Sofia on the stage. It's all yours.
I'm not going to reach these heights, I can say, to start with, but I will try to give you some things to work with in your communities and in your federations, I hope. So I had this nice introduction, thank you for that, and thanks for the invitation here. It's my first time in Hannaholmen, so it's really nice to see what it looks like. My background is that I'm a tennis player from a small town in Sweden called Västervik. Does anybody know that town? No one. Well, it's a nice town, and I grew up in a sports family there. All of my family members played soccer and tennis, and we had this really good tennis player, Stefan Edberg. Maybe you know him. He's well known outside our small town. I now live in Stockholm, and I worked for a long time at the Swedish Confederation of Sports with its 72 members. You know, we've heard from the Basketball Federation now that Asoka spoke about, and there's a lot of others. And in my work there, I worked a lot with Finlands Svenska Idrott in small projects, so I'm glad to see you all again, Tarja and the crew. Yes, and we will have questions in the end, so you can use the Mentimeter to ask questions, and I really would like to have some questions, so feel free. And I'm going to try to get my next... Yeah, here's just, because sometimes I forget to introduce myself, so I just reminded myself here. I also worked in a big Swedish football club, soccer, AIK Fotboll, AIK, do you know that? It's in the northern part of Stockholm, and it's well known for its soccer play, of course, but also for its loud supporters, actually. So I worked there with trying to integrate talks about homophobia, sexism, gender identity, and racism in the leaders' education, because it came to my knowledge that in the football education programs there weren't such modules, and the coaches and leaders of AIK, there were 300. They really wanted to talk about these things, how to address homophobia in the locker room, how to talk about gender equality in the club, and so on. And racism was also a topic that wasn't really addressed in these educations. And after that, it was a rough journey in that club, because this was 2013. And at that time, we hadn't really spoken a lot of these issues in Sweden at all. I came from like feminist movement, LGBTQIA+ movement, also together with my sports background. And when using those words in the same sentence, like LGBTQIA and football or ice hockey or American football, it wasn't really common. So it ended with that I had a death threat against me in that role that I was in then, because some of the supporters, there's 20,000, so it's not like everyone is the same. It's a diverse a group of people, and some of them were threatened that their club were becoming more gay. It was becoming less masculine. So that was something that I learned, and that I will come back to in my speech here now. After I worked there, I also played World Cup in tennis. Humble brag. But then I started to work at the Confederation of Sports of Sweden. And those 7 years really taught me a lot about resistance to these kinds of questions, and also gave me some tools that I would like to share with you. And in the morning and before lunch here, we heard a lot of brave voices, really. I was really touched by your speeches, Henrik and Dakota. I know Dakota left, and Asoka. I heard you before, but your voice is really important in Sweden, and it will always be, I think. And when I started at the Riksidrottsförbundet, the Confederation of Sports of Sweden, it's such a long name, so you will be tired of that soon, I think. We had addressed a lot, or a few areas that we saw that these areas, these issues, these challenges will not be resolved by itself. We need to take action. We need brave voices. We need allies. We need people in power who can really address these questions from their role in their power positions of Sweden in all kinds of sports. We saw that 11-year-olds stopped being a part of the Swedish sports movement for various reasons, and we knew that we had to make some changes to make sure that racism and sexism and exclusion of some kind shouldn't be a part of this puzzle. So we addressed 5 development areas. Oh, hi. And I forgot to say, I also am employed in the Swedish Cheerleading Federation. So I really appreciated this. So the first area was gender equality. And for a long, long time in Sweden, we have counted heads since 1989. That was the first time we had a gender equality plan, and in that time it was only women and men, so it wasn't like all the gender identities and so on. And we also saw that we didn't reach various groups of people in that amount that we wanted to. So that was non-traditional Swedes, from like young girls from immigrant background, for instance. and also LGBTQIA persons didn't feel welcome always in the sports environment, all the different rooms and in the competitions. And there was also 3 other topics that we addressed that are really integrated in inclusion and gender equality. Being a strong leader or a good leader to make people feel welcome and develop and stay in the sports field. We saw that it was important that we wanted to, or like highlight, you need to be a modern association or a club to make people come there, to make people stay and make people feel welcome. And that is also connected to being a gender equal club or addressing these kinds of questions that we talk about today and so on. And that was about the leaders too, that they should have the right competence. I've heard all the powerful stories, and also Dr. Cole giving talk about the connection between inclusion and safety, which was really also helpful for me, because I'm going to talk about a little bit too. But it all started, this work with inclusions, I'd say, with gender equality back in 1989. And we have the same goals almost today in Sweden. But some years ago, we changed the rules, so now you need all the 72 federations of Sweden needs to be gender equal. I mean, number-wise. You don't know what happens in the room, but you need to be gender equal to have the funding that you can get from there and so on. But we still can see that it's not like a solved issue, of course, but if you count heads, you can see that it is as many women as men in the boards. You can also report like being non-binary there now. In the NGOs or the clubs, the most common board member in the clubs and in the associations is a middle-aged man with previous experience of board work. And that group is, of course, very important for the Swedish sports, business and sport movement, but we also need other voices, other experiences, other ages, other genders and so on. And that's why we're trying to broaden this, the perspectives in the boardrooms, because the boards are the ones who just the priorities, sets the agenda and so on, and they are one of the keys to inclusion. And also we have a lot of, or not a lot, but we have numbers on leaders and coaches. And if you even, regardless of statistics you look at in like level and so on, you can see that the most common leader and coach is a man still. And the man does the core business, the football on the field, the ice hockey practice, and the women and mothers, they're doing the social parts, like raising funds for the competition for the kids, or being in the kioski, in the hot dog stand and so on. Not always, not everywhere, not in each club, but if you look at the numbers, you can see the tendencies of that still. And we saw that something needed to change in, before you're gonna read that now, I think. We counted heads, and we want to continue to do that, to see like, is it getting better? It's easy to count. Now we were 4 and now we're 5, it's getting better. But it's not the whole story. You need also to know what's going on inside the head. How are you feeling? How are you being welcomed in the different sports environments in Sweden and so on? And we tried to change this perspective in this work, because we knew that we worked a lot with like trying to get more women and deviants. When I say that, I do this because it deviants from the norm, of course. And we knew that something needed to change, some perspectives needed to change to engage everyone, or as many as possible in this kind of work. And also, okay, I thought you said looking in the mirror is a Swedish expression. Maybe it is, but it means more that we tried to not look for the ones who weren't in the room at the time, like in the boards, as a coach, as an active player, and so on. We needed to look at ourselves. Who are we? Who are, setting the agenda, doing the priorities, and who are our core business for today? It's not for everyone. We say in our statute of values in Sweden that sports are for everyone and so on, but I don't think everyone was in on that, or everyone wasn't really everyone from the start. So we needed to identify the norm, and I don't know how many of you are do you know that word, the norm? Like it's a unwritten rules, things you don't speak out, but you can feel it when you come into different environments that you are the normal person or the most common here, and that can make you feel in different ways. So we took back the questions to our own business and tried to support the different federations to do their own lessons at home. Who are our core business for today? Who are we? Who sets the agenda? And what do we need to do to get more perspectives in our business? And this is such a big question, so we try to make it easier to chew. Maybe that's Swedish too, I don't know. We say, chew the elephant in small pieces. Do you do that too? Yeah. Then you know what I mean. So we made a map of the different rooms. This is in Swedish, but I just wanted to show you, I think this is a good tool to have. And Dr. Cole Giffen, he talked about also the different environments of sports. And so we tried to look into the boardroom, the international boards, and in the NGOs and clubs there were also locker rooms, boardrooms, training and competing facilities. Who are there today? Who can feel welcome? Who can get in the room? Who can hear and get all the information they need? Who are feeling comfortable with the talk, the jargon in the locker room and in the clubs. So a lot of the federations and a lot of NGOs have used this tool to start somewhere, because it's hard to start. Where to start? This is such a big question sometimes. And then you can start with one room. Try to imagine you going into the locker room. How does it feel? How is the talk in there? Who can feel welcome? Is it for everyone? And so on. So I think for me, this has been a good way of trying to work our way through the whole sports field. And in this room, of course, you need to take different kinds of perspectives, trying to look at the same room with different eyes. Different skin color, different functionality, different gender identity, different genders, and so on. Who can feel welcome? You need also to integrate a lot of different voices. Because for a long time there were people, as still is, people that hasn't been selected to, or didn't face racism, didn't face sexism, didn't face homophobia, for instance. So you need to have that knowledge and those experiences in those rooms. Are you with me still? Okay, good. Good. Oh, and here it looks like a kindergarten now, I realize, but this is, it's hard to summarize all this work, but I'm going to throw you some balls now, 3 balls with some of the insights that I learned this throughout these years, the 15 years I worked in sports, and I hope you can get something out of it. So ball number 1 is a tennis ball. So one thing that I learned, and I realized that I needed to, really keep close to my heart in this work and with the people I work with. that we needed to listen to the ones with interpretive priority. And when I say that, it's tolkningsföreträde in Swedish. So I can't stand here and talk about how it feels to, face racism, but I can be the one who brings the question to the table, listen to others, and also, being an ally somehow. So listen to the ones with interpretive priority. But those with the most informal or formal power are the ones who we need to expect change from. It's not the brave voices of Sweden. We've heard those, like raising awareness of gender equality, LGBTQIA questions, racism, and so on. We really need to hear those voices, but we also need to take action and use the knowledge that we take with us from those witnesses in our own work or in the work of those with power. So, because a lot of times in Sweden at least, we expected the ones who gave the witness that they also should solve all the issues. Do you recognize that in Finland as well? Because, that's not your role. Your role is to maybe talk about what you've been through, and your witness is really important. But then the board members and the secretary general and the coach is the one who needs to create the environment for you so you can feel safe. So that was really like, maybe it's obvious to you, but I wanted to say it anyway. Ball 2, it's a golf ball, I think. And we've talked about the experience of refugees today, and it hasn't been my main work, but I have a colleague that I worked really close to. She's called Lillemor Lindell, and in the Confederation of Sports in Sweden, we've had projects doing this, but we could see the same tendency from different kinds of work, like when history-wise, when you worked with gender equality, raising awareness of women, LGBTQIA+, maybe refugees or newcomers, we could see that a lot of times in the clubs, they became separate islands that didn't get integrated or included in the sports. They couldn't influence their own way of laying out the training and the board work and so on. So my ball 2 is a reminder to myself, I think, and just sharing this with you. Do not let separate groups for women, LGBTQIA+, or newcomers be the goal. It must be a way or a step towards inclusion. We need to bring everyone together and listen to the different voices, even in the boardrooms. How much time do I still have now? 30. Okay, good. It's a golden ball. Yeah. The third one is a soccer ball. And this is integrated with the things I said before, but the more power you have, the bigger possibility and maybe responsibility also you have to contribute to change. And I will talk a little bit more of that soon, that if you are a person in the board, as a coach or whatever role you have, you need to check yourself, your own privileges. You need to learn about the things that you haven't gone through yourself. And you need to raise awareness, even though it can be terrifying for some, to make sure everyone can be in your group. And some good examples. This is a hockey player from Sweden, from Växjö Lakers. Do you know SHL in Sweden, Swedish Hockey League? You know that, right? So I work with them a lot because they started to raise awareness on LGBTQIA questions, because they saw that nobody in Swedish ice hockey is coming out on the male side as a homosexual or transgender and so on. So they needed to raise awareness about this question. Usually you hear that people have done something after something happened, or we weren't ready for this. But they wanted to be ready before somebody told them. So in the discussions with them, we decided that, yeah, well, you need to have those talks and show that you're doing this job to make sure that everybody can tell who they are, if they, regardless of if it's sexual orientation, disability or background or something. And they have done a really good job. And I can just, if you want, you can take a look at it. It's called SOL Pride, and they do it every year. So they have the ambassadors from each team of the highest hockey league, male hockey league of Sweden. And they talk about being an ally, being and making sure that the environment are ready for people to be themselves. So I think this is a good example how we can do it. And this was the reminder to myself that I needed to take a look at the watch, actually. So now I did that. And in the work, I mean, you can have all the plans you like. You can have the equality plan, the gender equality plan, and the safety plan. But then reality happens. You can have your plans, you can plan your whole project, but then there's people involved. There's different kinds of forces, different kind of backgrounds, different kinds of fears that you face in your work. So I tried to think about what kinds of resistance have I met in my work. Maybe that could be something interesting for you. It's no research, it's just my experiences here from doing this quite a while. Maybe you recognize some of it. So I listed some of the things that I think it's important to know that you can face in this kinds of work, and it's a lot about fears. In my work, I have met a lot of male men in power positions, and had a very good cooperation with a lot of them. But also I've met a lot of fears in this group. When I've talked about, or a lot of people in Sweden have talked about gender equality, LGBTQIA plus questions, and masculinity. How is and Dakota talked a lot about, or a bit about that too. How you're being, how is the expectations to be a man? Like you shouldn't cry in this particular situation and so on. But a lot of fears are standing in the way of inclusion, I'd say. Fears of making mistakes, like I don't know the LGBTQ, how can I start? I don't even know what that means. Fears of looking stupid in front of other men or people, that you don't want to start because you don't want to, get criticized. Fears of being replaced. Okay, so this means that I can't be here because I'm a white male, heterosexual, middle-aged man, and that's not what it's about, really. I've met fears of having to know everything from the start. Maybe it's the same as the first one, almost, that you don't want to talk about anything of this because you don't know everything, and then nobody can start. So I've heard a lot of projects that have been shut down because they made a mistake and so on. So my thoughts on that is really that we need to be also nice to each other when we start doing these jobs, start doing the works for inclusion, because we don't know everything. We're going to face things that we haven't planned for. And I also met a lot of doubts. If I have a history of being a part of like a racist, homophobic, sexist, transphobic jargon, or like talk in the locker room in the 90s or in the 2000s or whenever, yesterday too, how can I be a part of change? How can I be a change maker now? Can I really? And my answer to that is yes, of course, because you can decide, I don't want to be a part of this anymore, and you can use your experiences in the clubs that you heard all these words that you didn't really maybe want to say, but you were expected to say them. We know that in the group dynamics, especially in like male team sports. So yes, you can be a change maker regardless of what your history is. So please do. And another thing is, of course, time and resources. Can we do this when we are going to play soccer? We have a competition next week. We have a cup next week. How can we do this also? So that was a really important also lesson for me to try to integrate this work with the core business. You're not going to do anything else but playing hockey or football or American football or swimming or track and field. But you're just going to do it with a broader perspective with these glasses on, that our football, our like ice hockey, swimming, are going to be for everyone, and then we have to have different glasses and perspectives when we do that. So you're going to do the same thing, just a little bit better, maybe, for more people for a longer time, hopefully. And also sometimes there's been ideology too, that we shouldn't work with these kinds of questions. Of course, there's like a political spectra also. But in the core values of Swedish sports, it says that it's for everyone and everyone should take part and it should be joyful. So that's the ground of working with these questions there. And I also wanted to tell you about one of the methods that we used. I think, have you seen this before, Teflon test? I know Tarja Krum have seen that. I don't think we should do it now, maybe. I had it only in Swedish, but do we have it in English, Tarja? Somewhere? Or Finnish?
We can send it to you afterwards.
Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah, that was a test that all the leaders that we met, we challenged them in their own roles, that they had to check their own privileges, things that they have been born into or have gotten because of their light skin or their heterosexuality and things like that. And they had to check their own privileges to make sure that they were inclusive in their coach role, in their role in the board or whatever. So it's a question that you have to think about if you often, sometimes, rarely or never have been subjected to any stares, unpleasant feelings, advances, profanity, or received any questions that did not feel good. It could be based on gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, ethnicity, skin color, and so on. Age, ability, body form, or social background. And you need to check. So then they thought about their whole life. It's a big task, thinking about your whole life. But we try to think mostly of their time in sports, of course. If they have been facing some of these things, and if they said no to everything on this list, then they had some lessons to do to make sure that their club, their federation, their board was inclusive, because they didn't have all the experience, they didn't have all the perspectives in the room. And to say that you are an inclusive club or federation, you need to check all this before you can say that. And the Swedish Confederation of Sports were really like, we look the same, a lot of people in there. So that was a lesson for us too. Why are everyone looking the same here? And what does that, how can that influence? What kind of decisions are being made here? What kind of agenda we set and things like that? And a lot of people who had written no on all this were also like the ones that I said before, like in power positions. And if the whole Swedish sports movement were going to move from being not inclusive, being discriminatory somehow, and being non-gender equal, then we had to try to think about these perspectives in our work more. So yes, Tarja will send that to you so you can take a look at it. And when we did this test, there were also some reactions that we talked about before. Yes, but if I haven't felt sexism, racism, transphobia or so on, I am the normal guy here. Like a lot of people felt shame, but that's not the point. The point is to make sure that you, if you are the norm, you have a perfect position of contributing to change, and you just have to listen to other people and make sure that you have those voices in your head. Maybe that's hard to have all those voices in your head, but still. And the most important thing there was to check whose perspective do I have when I talk about the core business. So this is just a reminder that we always had these questions in mind when working with this, or tried. One other method that I could share with you. I have 5 minutes. Oh, yeah. I'm going to take this. We can send this maybe after to Tarja, right? It's a method of, first you count the heads still. You count how many women and men are in the boards, how many coaches do you have, how many active players or runners or swimmers. And then you count resources. Where do the money go? To who? To which teams or groups or gender? Reality means, why is it like this? You can have like an analysis phase there. You need to think about, why is it the way it is? And the R4, realize, it means that you make a plan of action. So it's not rocket science, but it's still something to hold on to in your work, which has worked quite good, I think. But we will send this to you. Yes. So it's time for questions now, right? Okay, good. Yeah. Lotta, you have the questions.
Yeah, I have
okay, good.
All right, we have some questions coming in, and thank you, Sofia.
Oh, thank you.
Härligt. We still have a kind of tolerance mindset in many areas in Finland. We are still far from inclusion and equality.
Mm-hmm.
How can we shift focus from tolerance to inclusion?
Mm-hmm. It's a very good question, and it's a $10,000 question, I think. But I think, I don't know if you all know the shift there. The tolerance is that you tolerate someone who's different. It's okay to be that way. It's okay to be gay. It's okay to be. Instead, you look at yourself and check your privilege. It's almost the shift that we try to do there. So I just think that you should start with yourself and your own club. Take a look at yourself. What privilege do I have? What is my experiences? All the rooms that I showed you there. Take a walk through your club or through your federation. Who can be there? Who can feel welcome? Who can feel and like develop there? So it's and then after that you can think about like, what do we need to change? So it's not a solution. It's more like a method maybe.
Yeah, thank you. And then we have another question. It is usually not enough to just focus on minorities one special day or just twice a year.
Mm.
How can we integrate work with inclusion in our everyday life in core activities?
So good questions. Well, I think maybe the first thing could be to take a look at some of the educations that you're doing. We try to do that, like the coaches for young kids. What is in those educations? Usually in Sweden, when we take a look at it, it's not a lot about this inclusion, norms, gender equality, and stuff like that. It's more about like how to play football, for instance. And that's, of course, important. But to be able to play football, you also need a group with good group dynamics and an inclusive coach that sees everyone. So I think maybe take a look at your educations in your sport. That's a start.
And then one more question. Do they have openly gay hockey players in SHL now?
Openly?
Yeah. After your work?
No.
All right.
Not yet. But there's a transgender hockey player now in Sweden in a lower league. And I think, I mean, you can count heads there too. There's none yet. But I think it needs some time, it needs work. And when you have making sure that this environment is safe for you, then there will be different types of people there, hopefully. So we will wait and see.
That's questions from now.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Okay. No more questions? Okay. Oh, there's a goal. That means that we're finished. And if you would like to contact me, I'm in my consultant hat and also in cheerleading hat. So that's my email, and I'm very happy to be here with you, and I will also stay the whole day if you have questions afterwards. So I will be happy to talk to you about anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Sofia, for your valuable talk. So, I just want to put out the friendly reminder about Mentimeter. Please share your thoughts that have possibly occurred throughout the day and put your thoughts in Menti, please. As we all well know, coffee break is one of the most important part of many communities. And when I'm glazing around the audience, maybe it could be a good place for coffee. Or what do you think? So let's have a shared coffee break, and we'll be back 2 p.m. Back to the auditorium. Thank you. Okay, apparently we're good to go. Move on with the program. Firstly, welcome back from the break. Unfortunately, there was no coffee on the break, but at least you get breathe some fresh air maybe, so we are good for the next program. Surely many great conversations didn't get to finish, but let's keep them going even after the seminar. And next up, we will be having a panel discussion where we'll hear about and discuss the model developed by the Welcome Project. This model provides tools for increasing diversity and accessibility in sports. And the panel will be moderated by Kim Lindblad. Welcome, panelists and the moderator.
Thank you. And I will start this time by briefly presenting our panelists. And of course, I want to also wish you all welcome to this session, 45 minutes long. So together with me here, first we have Lena Hindström-Pesu, who works as Executive Director at Åbo IFK Sports Club in Turku, Finland. Next to Lena, we have Annika Rae, who works as Coordinator for Multicultural Education for the city of Turku. And next to Annika, we have Abdirahman Suguel, football referee representing Football Association of Finland. Glad to have you here as well. And finally, we also have Maurizio Pratesi, diversity expert representing Football Association of Finland. Good to have you all four here. And before starting the actual discussion with the panelists, I would like to bring us back to briefly present what have actually been the focus and also what have been achieved and carried out through and during the Welcome Project activities. The project has trained, for instance, several sports club staff members, as well as members in diversity, by offering trainings for the trainers' programs. Besides that, the activities has also focused on developing a free-to-use digital material to support sport clubs in their diversity work. And besides that, the project has also contributed to cooperation between sports clubs and organizations working with refugees and immigrants in order to reach out to and recruit new members and to inform families about sports clubs' activities in Finland. But now we will start addressing some questions for our panelists, and I will start with a question for Lena. Your sports club, Åbo IFK, has been one of the pilot clubs for the Welcome Project for the past 2.5 years. You're based in Turku, and your sports club provides handball, football, and track and field activities to nearly 700 members and supported by over 100 dedicated coaches and team leaders. And then the question that I have for you, what have been the most important steps taken in your association during the Welcome Project if we think about increasing diversity in your sports club?
I would like to at the first take the opportunity to say what a fantastic journey this has been. It has been really a privilege to be a part of this. And as a club, we are really proud and also grateful to have been part of this. And we, of course, hope that this will continue in other aspects. But to your question, I think that the first and most important thing is that you have to have the awareness. You have to know what you do right and how to be better. And you have to make strategic decisions. It's not enough that you and I say that, okay, we will be inclusive and we will work for integration. We have to get everybody on board. And when I say everybody, I mean everybody. I mean board members, I mean staff, I mean all the coaches that we have, also all the volunteers, but also players and, what's important, also the players' parents. So this is the first step, that you have to be aware of that it's really a huge amount of people that you have to affect. The second most important, I think, is absolutely the education. And here we have had a lot of help during these 2.5 years. We have educated a lot of our volunteers, our coaches, our board members, so forth. And during the last year also actively also our players. And now we are at the stage where we also need to get all the parents on board. So this is an ongoing project. The third thing is that I think we heard it quite a lot today, that you have to think out of the box. We have learned that we cannot ourselves be experts on everything, and we cannot do everything ourselves. We need help. And in this aspect, we have had a lot of help from other organizations who have helped us to get on track, perhaps pointed out the problems that you probably face in these kind of projects. And we have absolutely got a lot of new friends out of the sports world also during this journey. The fourth, I would say you need the resources. And there we have been we had the opportunity, we have had Ida with us during these years, and I hope that we will also continue to have Ida in some part in our club afterwards. But then you also need money. And this is perhaps my message to all you who can decide about where the money comes from. Because in every grassroots organization, you have to realize what do you have the capacity for or not. And we realized quite early that we can't do this on our own. We need help. And you need to be quite clear. You have to set the goal and you have to have the vision, and you also have to define what you need. And not only the human resources, but you also need the money. And I think that is the greatest problem today, how to allocate money for the future projects that we will have. But I would say that these four things have been the most, perhaps, important things that we have learned during this journey.
Thank you very much, Lena, for these insights, and perhaps that was a clear message to our decision makers that think about where it's worth investing the money. And I guess this would be a good and important thing to invest in. Then I will move on with some questions for Annika. You work as a coordinator for multicultural education for the city of Turku. And during the Welcome project, the team collaborated with you to explore new ways to connect with and to recruit children and youth for Åbo IFK Sports Club. Can you briefly explain how the preparatory education that some municipalities in Finland offer newly arrived immigrant children and youth, how does this actually work?
Yes, thank you. The preparatory education is meant for all the school-age children who move to Finland from abroad and don't know yet any Finnish or Swedish language. And they will then attend this 1 year preparatory education in certain groups, in certain schools in all over the Finland. In Turku at the moment we have around 400 children there in the preparatory education. And yeah, as I said, they will learn the language and other skills needed at school before moving on to their local school. But I think still the most important thing in preparatory education is that they will feel safe. Like I think Sofia said a lot about feeling safe and how important it is, and they can't learn anything if they don't feel safe there in the environment and like become the members of the society. So I think that's a very important thing also, as well as the learning language and the skills.
Could you also tell, from your perspective, why would preparatory education actually be a good partner for the local sports clubs?
Yeah, I think we have done a great job together with Lena's club, and it's been an honor to be part of your great work. And yeah, it's the curriculum is quite flexible, so it's easy to get the groups, the children, the teachers involved in the actions. They are happy if they have some cooperations and some ready-made cooperations that they can be part of. And also schools are very reliable partners, and also for the parents, like they can be a bit suspicious sometimes about different activities when they are new to Finland and they don't know yet all the things, and they might be a bit afraid to let their children go somewhere on their own. So if it comes from the schools, so then they think that's the reliable partner, and so it might be better and easier way also. And also it's a good way to like finding a new hobby for the newcomers. They don't have anything when they move here, so that's a very, very good way. And through the preparatory education, we can reach all the children who live in a certain city. So many good opportunities there.
Right. Lena, would you like to elaborate on what type of cooperation have you, for instance, done together, and how has it served your sports club?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, I remember the make. What we have to do is of course we started with meetings. Okay, how can we do things? And then we have actually we call it the Valma Club, Valma classes, and we have actively been in these classes also telling about what we can offer. We have had these meetings where both children and parents have been welcome. And then we are right now doing it. We are visiting the schools, the classes, and we are like having a really like a fun class of it's football or futsal or handball or something like that. Like we have coaches going out to the schools and really getting the kids along. Perhaps they can try something new that they haven't before. And of course, we would like for them to join our club. But I think the most and foremost thing is that they perhaps learn that there are many opportunities also in Turku to participate in different kind of hobbies. And right now I have heard a lot of good things that. Actually, children have said that they didn't even know that football could be so nice or so fun. But you know, if you can give a moment of really happiness and joy, I think that's the most important thing.
Thank you. That brings us on to football. And of course, it's not only about the associations and the cities, it's also a question about the people in the associations and what and how they work together with the members and newcomers. And that leads me on to another set of questions for Abdi Rahman. As a Finnish football referee, you have gained recognition for your professionalism and resilience in the face of challenges, and you have also been a vocal advocate against racism in sports. You have addressed multiple incidents of racial abuse during the matches and actively worked to raise awareness about discrimination in football, calling for concrete actions to combat such behavior. The media has written about your input as a referee in intervening in racist behavior at the football field. Highly appreciated. From your experience, what is the most crucial thing that should be changed in sports to overcome these challenges?
Thank you. So, first of all, I think we need a lot of more education about this topic, about the racism, because I never honestly thought that I would face racism in a football field, because we know, all of us, we know we have these leap of word campaigns that football unites all, sports unites all. But then it happened, and after it has happened, I think I didn't get the support I needed. And you get two reactions. People who just don't know what to say. They feel almost uncomfortable to talk about the whole topic, and the other people who are mad on behalf of you, and I respect that. But nobody takes the action. And then, because there wasn't the support that I needed, so luckily I have a strong community that I come from, a small family, so my Somali background, actually I was born and raised here, but luckily I have such a role models and friends as Ahmed, who is sitting right there. And I think through him and through my role models, I learned that through networking, becoming your own advocate, your own voice, you could make a change for the next generation. But I think we still need that education for the people who are deciding about this stuff and actually can make a bigger change than just me talking to the media or attending events. The second thing is that we need maybe stronger accountability. So this thing happened. Who's accountable of it? What are the next steps we're going to take it? How can we stop it? And maybe we cannot stop it, hopefully one day, but how can we take the steps to reduce it? So how can we become more vocal than the racist who did this thing? And the third thing is, I think we need also more clear consequences. So as you've read in the media, I've faced racism 3 times during the past 2 years. So I've been referee total of 12 years, and now all of a sudden, last year and this year, I faced these incidents. And because it's a public information, I can talk about this. The first time it happened, no consequence at all. The whole thing was, I think in Finnish we say, put it under the rug. The second time, the football team whose fans shouted this thing, they got 100 euros penalty. And now the third time, the team whose supporter yelled this racist slurs got 700 euros penalty fee. So it was 0 euros, 100 euros, 700 euros. The euros does not matter, but the thing stopped there. So up to this day, I don't think there are enough consequences. And as long as we can clear this thing with euros and penalty fees, it will go on. So I think we need more consequences.
Did I understand you correct there, that you're clearly saying that you can see a growing trend in racism or racist slurs?